Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, the recap of Stage 6 of the Vuelta a España from Olot. It's a lot today to Pal Andorra. A lot of rain.
That's for sure.
If you watch the Campeonato vlog, he spoke about, Jorgensen spoke about the rain in Olot. And it's a stage where, for once, Benji and I have local knowledge. And we decided that there was going to be no GC action or gaps of note and that the breakaway would win. Benji held the faith. I picked Vine in the preview. Benji picked Vine last night. I was worried Jay had lost too much time. Run me through the parkour, Benji, and why you thought a break was nailed on.
Well, if you look at the parkour itself, first of all, the first start is a climb already, a climb that is not super short either. So we're looking at 11 kilometers at 4%, the Colada de Santigosa. And that's enough for breakaway formation to kick off. And a break can already form there. But let's say it doesn't form, hypothetically, in the first 40 kilometers, then the second climb already starts there. So breakaway formation, there's enough climbing for control to be very difficult to happen. But also, ask the question, who wants to control the stage? Jonas Vingegaard, sure, he's happy wearing the red jersey, but he's more happy about wearing the red jersey at the end of this race. So he's fine with a breakaway going up the road, taking 3 minutes in GC, and therefore taking the red jersey at the end of the day. And he doesn't desperately require the stage victory for himself. So if you look at other teams, there is a possibility that Lil Trek looks at the stage and says, okay, we'll try to control it. Maybe Ciccone has a chance at this finish, but it's more likely that he gets beaten by Vingegaard at the finish, so they won't control it on paper. There's no team in this peloton where there was an obvious desire beforehand to control the stage. Plus, lots of teams wanted to go in the breakaway to begin with.
Yeah, I was even surprised. I have not done the final
climb, by the way.
Like when I saw the numbers in the breakaway, like it's the same size that I expected, but multiple teams had multiple riders. Decathlon EF had 2, and I was like, there's a lot of teams that are missed here, and this is nailed on break. I mean, maybe some teams, it depends. Sometimes you're in the pre-briefing, you're trying to shadow box what you think another team will do. So maybe some teams have thought Trek are going to control this for Ciccone to win the stage, or Visma are going to control because Vingegaard won the first uphill finish, so they're going to go again. So don't kill yourself in the breakaway when Dylan van Baarle will pace behind you. Whereas maybe it was that, or maybe because again, eventually the break starts, or that we see because there's no full coverage today. After the stage, Bruno Armirel said, he's like, yeah, in break formation, I knew that Vine would just win the stage easily. He was like, clearly the strong. He was like, yeah, of course. I mean, he was going to win the stage easily. And he was the one that just created the break jumping and then the break form. So maybe it wasn't a choice.
Maybe it wasn't a choice, and we'll see if Jane Vine ends up winning the stage. But the breakaway that ends up forming is 10 riders. Jay Vine for UAE Team Emirates, Pablo Castrillo of Movistar, 2 riders from Quickstep, Vervaeke Garofoli, you said it, Admiral from Decathlon, Ryan and Shaw from EF Education, first De Bruyne for Alpecin, Torsten Tran, the closest rider in GC on 58 seconds, Norwegian rider on Bahrain Victorious in the break as well, together with Lorenzo Fortunato. And that's the break that forms, but I said it earlier, the second climb, Colada de Toches, 24 kilometers at 3.5%, is somewhat in the middle of the stage. Just before that, there's still 2 climbs towards the finish line. In the last 30 kilometers, you've got the Alto de la Comea, 4.2 kilometers at 8%, and then 9.6K at 6.5%, the finish on Paul. But Patrick, before you talk about your training, talk about your experience on these specific 2 climbs.
And that's for once. I don't think it's ever happened before. For once, both Benji and I have done the whole final of this stage. And we actually know the roads. And I think that's an indication. If a climb is suitable for these 2 podcast hosts to do an FTP test, it may not be the best climb for big GC differences. Because we chose it for a reason. So that was why also we have first-hand experience that we're like, oh, this climb's not so bad. We can just we can chat to each other. This is a good climb for us.
I considered it pretty hard. This was also the climb, this final climb, where we made that video.
Yeah.
1.5 years ago. doing that 25, 30-minute test against you. Well, for me, it was 25 minutes. For you, it was a bit faster, but
That was a good video. iPhone.
that was really fun.
But yeah,
Next year again?
Yeah, sure. But the weather was really. I thought the weather was going to change today, and for some reason, like Andorra, we had no rain for a long time, and then a week ago, started to rain, got cooler again. They're about to cut it. There's a huge tobacco field. A whole field next to my office they're ready to cut it and dry it out shortly. I don't know if they've waited too long because it's now wet. But normally the Vuelta comes here and they get storms. They had the storm in 2019 when Pogacar won in Encamp, when Roglic in the hail on Engolasteras was in the gravel. In Arinsal, it was pretty dark from memory and raining. And in the Tour in July, it's normally dry and hot. That's what we had when Koos won. Today, we again have a bit of hail. I even went out because I was testing. I was like, this is, I want to assess the conditions. And the conditions are really, really important in cycling. We had some gloomy weather today. And with autumn closing in, that's what I feel like is happening. There's some freshness in the air. It's the perfect time to talk about bike lights that brighten your ride and keep you safe. And that's why this episode is brought to you by Exposure Lights. They've been making world-class bike lights in the UK for over 20 years, known for their brightness, long run times, and smart technology. And they got compact lights that keep you seen. They got powerful beams that cut through if you're riding in the night or commuting home early and late in the Northern Hemisphere during winter. And every model is designed with cycling-specific beam patterns and advanced features. In their Strata SB is their signature front light, packing 1700 lumens, perfect for early mornings and late evening training. I use actually their lights on my head when I'm running, so I use a lot of the trail. I think they work really, really well. They're popular, like they should become more popular with the trail runners because
to see the bear.
See the bear, more likely trying not to break my ankle because if I finish the podcast and then I do the highlight video, I can start running at like 8:30, but then it's getting a bit dark, especially with the tree cover. So I like to use their light on my head. But for cycling, they've got the rear boost R run, so up to 48 hours in pulse mode and is visible from more than a kilometer away. It even has Peloton mode, so you're not annoying your group. It lowers the brightness in a group and reacts to different light conditions. So all of Exposure, all their products are made in the UK with global shipping available. So get set for autumn rides and the light coming in a bit later with 15% off all road lights using code LRCP15. That's 15% off using code LRCP15. It's a really high quality product. And with that code, I think it's really, really good value. It's available until the end of September 2025, that code use. And so go and check them out, go and support them, and thank them for coming on the show as well.
And talking about lights, someone was lighting up the climbs today. We saw the Colada de Toches, not exactly the most vibrant climb in the breakaway, I would say. That breakaway stuck together. We did see Vervaeke taking the KOM points on the Toches climb, and that put him virtually in the KOM lead after that climb. But can I say, Patrick, that for this first half of the race, it started to look like the stage would end up being somewhat the script that we laid out yesterday. Breakaway goes, no one controlling necessarily, just controlling the gap to make it not a 10-minute gap. And after that Toches climb, the gap exploded from 3 minutes to 6 minutes by the foot of Comea. So the break was winning, right?
Yeah, I mean, no one wanted to control. It was really a question of who would take Red. Bruno Armorel and Torsten Train were having their own battle. That was probably the most interesting battle, most competitive thing of the day. It was rainy, so through Andorra there was jostling for position. It's big highway roads, even though on the profile you think, it's uphill. They're going in the big ring, 40 k's an hour. And so that's why you see the GC teams getting a bit nervous with the road furniture, although it's not so bad on the big road. And yet Jay Vine said on Kamei, he's like, I wish we'd done it way faster. He's like, we were noodling. Yep. We were noodling. So I guess if he said that and then the gap didn't come down really in the peloton either, then I feel like it was just a status quo stage, just a classic mountain break. This is old school cycling. This is pre-Pogacar, pre-COVID cycling.
Yeah, when I looked at Comea, the gap went down a little bit. It went down from like 6 to just under 5 minutes, I would say, on that climb. But I agree that If they were noodling at the front, that means that the peloton was not shredding it either. It was Kelderman pacing. I think Vine was setting a bit of a tempo in the second half of Comea towards the top, to the point that Armirai was getting dropped towards the top, and Vine had a bit of a gap over the top, taking KOM points on that climb. But the question then is, when Vine gets that gap before the top of Comea, is that just for KOM points? Is he going to continue going? Stuff like that. He obviously kept on going, and the gap expanded to 15 seconds by the end of the descent of Comea, which is not officially the start of the pole climb, but for this hypothetical, it's basically the start, because we start going uphill from here to the finish, roughly. Now, Vine's out the front. Sure, he's got a gap of 15 seconds after that climb, whatever. But in the peloton, some stuff is happening too, because sure, the tempo might have been noodling, as the Aussies would say, but Kelderman was doing some kind of tempo, but Joao Almeida at a certain point was off the back. Was that a mechanical or?
It was a mech. So initially they just showed Almeida on the wheel of Novak, and they're not coming back to the peloton.
Yeah.
And Almeida's even dropping the wheel of Novak at certain points, and we haven't seen anything else. So like, Almeida's dropping, what the hell? And that wasn't the case. They then show him changing bike. So he did have a mechanical, and then in classic Almeida style, he wanted to not spike his watts coming back, and he comes back. But yeah, on top of Comea, it was a wet descent, even though it stopped raining, thankfully. Wet descent, and quite fast and steep. Jay Vine attacks just at the top of Comea. He uses the descent, gets away, which in theory actually isn't smart, because this is why normally it wouldn't work. Armorel and Train are not riding for the stage win. They want to maximize GC time, so they'll keep working. And Quickstep and EF have two riders each, so they can sacrifice James Shaw and Vivaka to pull. Problem is, Vivaka has a mechanical. James Shaw's done. Bruno Armorel doesn't believe he can win the stage, so he and Train are marking each other out for the red jersey. And so Vine keeps on the tempo. By the time he gets it's a little bit up, it's uphill to La Massana, but not that steep.
Yeah.
By the time he gets there, he has 40 seconds.
Yeah, the gap just kept on growing until it stabilized at about 1 minute, I would say, with, let's say, 5-6 kilometers to go on the actual pole climb. And you're right, we've got an incentive for some people in that original breakaway to go for the GC, because at the foot of the final climb, the gap to the peloton is, let's say, about 4 minutes. I said at the start of this podcast, Torsten Tran was 58 seconds behind in GC before the stage started. Vine was way behind, so he's not in the picture when it comes to GC. But Torsten Tran could end up in the red jersey here if he can stay within more than 58 seconds in front of the GC group behind, which is looking more and more likely as this race go on. And to be honest, when the final climb starts, it looked like that was going to happen unless he completely capitulated, and he didn't. Because, well, I can make a whole story about it, but Jay Vine had a minute with 6 kilometers to go. So, spoilers, Jay Vine ends up winning the stage, and he does so. I'm not exactly surprised. Like, yeah, we picked Jay Vine in the run up to this stage, but also Jay Vine as a rider, if you look at solely the qualities as a rider that he has, is the strongest climber in that breakaway if they're all in best form, right?
Yeah, Vine he would have won more if he hadn't crashed a lot. Yeah. And he is someone who, on his day, he's GC top 5 climber. Like on his day. We saw that in the Giro 23. He's like
Correct.
making the last 5 guys. He's got a good TT. And that's also, this sort of stage really suits this sort of climber, where you can get in the break on 5%, you can absorb the flat riding on the valleys, and then you can still power away on 6-7% average to pole. And he knows all the roads, and he's motivated. I also think Torsten Train was mega strong today. He did go into my Velo Games team because he did his classic one result. He was 4th on Laguna Sanaya, and I was like, excuse me? Where's that come from?
I don't want to talk about any Velo Games team anymore, because let's just say that before the Vuelta started, my wife made a Velo Games team, and in that Velo Games team, there is Jay Vine, Torsten Tran, Armirai, and initially Godu. I decided to tell her before this Vuelta started, Godu hasn't been looking good this year. Not sure I feel it. And then she ended up, because of me switching Godu out for Fortunato, So I've been death stared for the last couple of days after Godu's victory. But Fortunato, who then replaced Godu, ends up being in this top 4. And Patrick, she's got the entire top 4 in her Velo Games team. She should be running this podcast.
Exactly. She maybe she listened, fine-tuned a little bit, adjusted.
Yeah, we'll take credit.
But yeah, it was looking good for Tran going into the red jersey, because in the GC group, nothing happened. I mean, and what can happen? Like, on Kamea, where are you going to go? Agrao Garcia Piena, he gets his FTP goes up 30 watts when it's raining, but where's he going to go?
Yeah.
And so it's a group of 60. Verona starts pulling. They're side by side. Decathlon are pulling through Lamasana with Stan Mittet. But then there was some like disconnect, because I think they were like, well, don't pull too hard because you got Amarel trying to take GC time in the breakaway. And then Trek went from, you're looking at it, you're like, oh yeah, they want to be first into the climb. Oh yeah, they want to just moderate a tempo. Hold on, they're pulling. They're actually pulling now. And we see Verona pulling. Baggioli starts easy. Ayuso second last wheel. I was like, Ayuso's not Almeida.
Yeah.
He's not the same person.
That is a correct assessment. He is not the same person. He also, sure, we've had moments in the past where Ayuso was worse in the first half of the climb and then came back at the end, like on Sierra Nevada, maybe in the Vuelta of 2022. Just putting a year on there, I think. But that's an example of where that was the case, but he doesn't have that riding. When Ayuso's at the back, it's usually because he's suffering, is how I perceive that. And a few seconds later, we see someone drop from the group, and it's Juan Ayuso, and that takes one of the 3 co-leaders at UAE out of the equation. Almeida's still present, and Soler is still present. They were all 3 in the top 4 of GC before the stage started. But Ayuso was not, okay, I'm going to try and hold on to this as long as possible. It's, I'm gone, I'm dead situation. So he was going to drop out of GC the way he was dropping, and that is also the case basically at the end of the stage. Just before we continue on with the stage, I think he also said after the stage that he was expecting this and that he's now going to focus on trying to get a stage win and trying to work for the team. So I look forward to seeing both of that in the next 2 weeks. But that being said, I don't know how I feel about the stock of Juan Ayuso after this year. Because he started this year off pretty great, Patrick, winning multiple one-week races.
Dominating.
And then went to the Giro, crashed, got stung by a bee, had to dip out, because let's be honest, he could barely see during that stage. And then comes to the Vuelta. He says that he wasn't necessarily prepared for the Vuelta, that he wasn't expecting to come to the Vuelta, that the team asked him. And then the outcome is that he drops relatively early on the first proper mountain stage.
But yesterday he was flying in the TT. He was flying. Yeah. Like he was the strongest guy, it looked like, in the last K. And I'm not saying, you know, maybe that explanation you just gave, that would explain if he was in Landa's group today. But he dropped from a group of 45 when Andrea Baggioli was pacing. So, but maybe it's completely different. Maybe it's a TT effort he can do, but he hasn't done enough training volume to survive what was 4,000 meters of climbing, multiple long mountain passes on a hard stage. I don't know, but was he injured after the Giro that meant he couldn't train for a long time?
He, if I recall, he had struggled with his knee for a while. But okay. I don't know how long, you know? I don't know.
The Giro was like 3 months ago.
Pretty long ago.
Yeah.
But I don't know the specificities of that knee injury, but he definitely struggled with his knee after that Giro crash. Nonetheless, talking about the people that are still in the race, the actual GC group that is ongoing, when a user drops, it's still little track pacing and the gap towards the user extends, so he's out of the story here. But like you said, it's still a large group. Breakaways off, we said that already. But eventually you come to the point where it's just one rider in front of Ciccone, Baggioli, pacing. And we look at Ciccone. Vingegaard goes a bit to the right to look behind him. What's the situation in the group behind him? He turns back looking forward. And at that exact moment, Ciccone sees something happening behind him, like maybe Vingegaard going to the side, etc. Maybe he thought, okay, he's looking behind him, I'll try to attack. And that's when Ciccone makes an attack. He attacks to the right side of the road. He doesn't get a gap because Vingegaard is straight on his wheel, but Vingegaard was the fastest of the Visma riders. So the Visma riders, Kuss and Jorgensen, were in the wheel, which means that those riders won't chase Vingegaard down. So there's an instant gap behind. And it's not Almeida, the first two riders that are behind. It's Tiberi and Butrago, where Butrago was actually gapping Tiberi in the chase. And then in the group behind, which I'm talking about meters between these groups. So we're not talking about people being absolutely dropped here, just a response to the attack. Almeida is setting tempo in the third group here, gradually chewing like a train back towards Butrago and Tiberi. And then I assume also took over the tempo once those two riders were caught, because we were switching between breakaway and peloton, so it was hard to keep track of everything. But what was the situation in the Ciccone Vingegaard group?
Vingegaard starts to pull, he starts to relay, but then, I don't know, I didn't see Vingegaard stopping and giving him the elbow flick.
Yep.
But then Ciccone doesn't come through from what I could see in relay, which was, I mean, then I was thinking, okay, maybe he's gassed and Vingegaard's going to do all the work, and then Vingegaard's not going to, if Vingegaard doesn't flick his elbow, then just sit in the wheel. There's a big draft benefit here. But you could see Trek were preparing this, because when Baggioli, he did wind it up and more riders were dropping through the steep section after Pal Village. Santi, I think, made a big difference here, because he really kept that gap stable initially. And then when Almeida takes over, he's not going anywhere. He starts to bring this gap down. Vingegaard's then caught by Almeida. They don't show it too much, because I think Vine was winning the stage at the time. And then Ciccone attacks straight away again, which to me was strange, because the stage win's not there. You would think he would pace with Vingegaard to keep Tiberi, Almeida, the whole host of GC top 3 guys behind.
It's hard to judge because I'm missing images left and right in this scenario, but I agree that if those were the actual order of things, then I agree that he probably should have been all out relaying with Vingegaard and try and make a gap on the others. But Ciccone is definitely in a situation now. Before this Vuelta started, Ciccone was like, I'm going for stages, guy. I'm going for stages. And along the way, he probably realized that he was good enough to go for the podium, because at this point, he's clearly strong enough to be competing for a podium in these stages already. And he's competitive for that. But then, once Ciccone is being caught, we see another counter when it's Almeida attacking, which we also don't necessarily see that often. So that was fun to see. I don't know if it was Vingegaard, Ciccone closing that down, but they eventually both got to the wheel, and that kind of kept the group together. And then Sepp Kuss went to the front and started making the pulling towards the front and started pulling the group to the finish line, basically. And it was a group of maybe 10, 11 riders, if I had to guess, in that group. And who was present there, Patrick? Because I think Gaudu was holding on. Pidcock held on at the final end as well, if I recall.
Oh, no, I think Mr. Gaudu got gapped.
Okay.
We had 3 from Visma, Kuss, Jorgensen, Vingegaard. Goal there, very comfortable. Ciccone there, Almeida there alone. Tiberi then made it with Butrago dropped, which was, again, kind of surprising, because like Benji said, initially Butrago was gapping him. Pidcock looked pretty comfy. He sewed things up. The other team with 2 was Bora. Hindley and Pellizzari were there, and Riccitello was there. And then there's actually a decent gap of that group is then led out by Kuss. Almeida opens the sprint at like 2:20, Vingegaard in the wheel, there's no bonies, and then that group just rolls through without too much incident. And then, as I said, pretty big gap of 28 seconds to Ben O'Connor, Landa, Jefferson Cepeda, Gaudu, Howard Lopez, Soler, and then Ayuso finishes from that group on 11:51. So Ayuso loses 7.5 minutes. So he's done. And, but yeah, nothing really happened in the end of the GC group. J-Vine wins the stage. Such a foregone conclusion that Benji and I called it a week and a half ago. And so once again, J-Vine proving just lose some time and go in the break, and your chances are higher in week 1 than week 3. Torsten Train, second. He is on 54 seconds. He takes the red jersey off Vingegaard with a gap of 2:33. Fortunato third. Armirel fourth on 1:10, 1:15. Castrillo 1:52. Then Shaw, Vavaka, De Bruyne, Ryan. So the whole break pretty much made it. In terms of GC, so Armirel's on 31 seconds. Fortunato 1:01. Vavaka 1:58. Vingegaard 2:33. No gaps then between... Extra gaps, rather. So it's 8 seconds to Almeida from Vingegaard. 9 seconds to Ciccone. Then Jorgensen is 4th on the GC guys because of the TT yesterday. He's on 16 seconds. Hindley's on 20 with Pellizzari. So two teams have 2 cards now. Bora and Visma. UAE don't have any cards left. Because, I mean, maybe...
Well, Almeida.
No, maybe Soler. Where's he?
He's a little bit behind after today.
He's on 40 seconds. So, yeah, they lose Ayuso. Koos is on 1 minute. He's on a minute, more or less.
I like the fun stories about multi-leader strategy, but at the end of the day, I wasn't expecting it to work for UAE in the first place. So, to me, it was always going to be about the individual strength of one of their riders. Today, Almeida was actually pretty strong, so I was happy to see that. And today doesn't mean much for the actual brutal mountain stage later in the race, though. Angliru, what's it called? I was going to say Botalume. That is not the name of the climb. The Bola del Mundo, close enough.
Bola del Mundo, Moradero, Farapona. Yeah. They're all harder than this, I think. But let's get into tomorrow's stage because it's a very similar parkour.
That is true, but I want to give a little bit of storyline towards the new red jersey because Torsten Tran takes the red jersey, but this is the guy, if I recall correctly, that back in 2022-23, Norwegian rider won a Tour de Suisse stage, I think last year maybe. He actually had a anti-doping test that, well, to be clear, no doping, etc., but it ended up giving a result that were markers for, if I recall, some type of cancer, and he
testicular cancer,
ended up having testicular cancer that was found through that anti-doping test, which, crazy story. The positive outcome is that I'm pretty sure he ended up getting the right treatment because of those early indicators and was back to racing and back to normal life rather, I won't say quickly, but in a happy amount of time. And it's crazy to see him then win a Tour de Suisse stage now in the red jersey of the Vuelta. That man has an insane story, and I'm just happy to see that it had a happy ending, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And he's in and out of shape. He's 30 years old, but yeah, going into the leader's jersey for Grand Tour is a pretty special thing and a highlight for his career. But tomorrow that then changes the stage a little bit. It changes a lot, actually. This is probably what Visma wanted, with Vingegaard giving the jersey away to... Yeah, 2:33 is a perfect gap. Perfect gap because Train's good enough to not lose that from the GC group tomorrow. Probably... Unfortunately, Bahrain, like if you give it to some teams, if you give the jersey to Caja, they'll defend it with their life. I don't know how Bahrain will do it. Probably they will still honor the jersey. But it's 188 Ks tomorrow. It's over 4,000 meters climbing again. It's from Andorra la Vella to Huesca, where this is quite a remote part of Spain. I believe, unfortunately, a hiker died on Huesca like in the last week or so. It's like not a lot of people live to the west of Andorra in these sort of valleys. It's like a lot of bears, remote area, but beautiful nonetheless as we get into Aragon. But we do the Port del Canto. The difference is 25 Ks, 4.5%. A lot of the climbs tomorrow are fake news. We're getting to fake news territory as we head west, and it's 5.6 Ks, 8% at the start. Then there's another 7% 4K section. It's a staircase climb, shorter valley. Then they do the Col de Croix de Perves, which is 5.7 Ks, 6%. Short descent, another medium mountain, 7 Ks, 6%. There's a bonus sprint on top of there that the break will likely take. Another descent, and then a bit of a 15K uphill valley. And then the Charla Huesca la Magia climb, which is a staircase. It's 4 Ks, 8.5%. Flat section for a K. 2 Ks, 9.5%. Descent. Then 3 Ks at about 6% to the finish. It does go up to 1,900 meters. This is much harder than the power climb and stage today. I think we will get gaps tomorrow.
I think so as well. The one thing is, though, that you've got those 3 flat segments in the climb, which give it a weird dynamic, which, if you look at Almeida's original form, let's talk about whether he has evolved from that or not, but he was the type of rider, back in the day at least, where he'd be okay with losing some gap to the GC group to try and crawl back towards the end. That is not possible on this, because then you're going to be out of the draft on the flat sections. I do think Almeida has evolved from that a little bit to the point that he doesn't drop off the GC group on purpose anymore. Now he stays within the GC group when he does that. He just doesn't seem to respond to people attacking first try. And do you think that can become a problem on a climb like this? For example, Vingo attacks on the steep part, the middle part, with about 6 kilometers to go. He goes over the top onto the flat section. There's gaps in the group. Does it benefit or disadvantage an Almeida to not respond immediately to an attack by Vingegaard like that?
It depends. It depends. If Vingegaard's solo, it's probably bad.
Yeah.
If Vingegaard's with 2 guys cooperating with him, it's really bad. If Vingegaard's with a guy who doesn't pull with him, then it's fine. Because Vingegaard's then, because the draft is so big, he's not just going to pull Ciccone to the line, not pulling.
Yeah.
So I think the answer is it depends. I think we likely will get a similar situation to today where Ciccone looks very, very good, and it's a pretty good climb for him. It's irregular. The problem is Trek have no climbers, so they don't have... Yeah, they literally they couldn't reduce the group to less than 30 guys today. Although Baggioli did a really good job, they don't have any climbers.
But who's willing to control a stage like this? Because don't we have a similar story? I think the one thing you have is that Torsten Tran and Bahrain will not one day break away that has a rider that can damage the red jersey of Torsten Tran. So that's some form of control for the stage, which might then lead to the gap maybe being 3 minutes before the final climb, and then a little Trek or Visma Leasebach can step in and do the minimal amount of work for a potential stage win. Or it's a non-dangerous breakaway to begin with, and then the break might win.
The break still has a big chance. It depends on the composition. Bahrain will not want to just gift the jersey to somebody if they know Tran can keep it, and then you have a flat stage on stage 8. So Armirel, he's going to want to get in the break again. I mean, he's on 31 seconds in GC. He's going to want to. It's an uphill start. He's going to want to get in the break. I think we could have a pretty fierce break on that 5K's 8%.
Yeah,
because Armirel is almost the best in the world at uphill starts. Bahrain won't want him in the break. Vine's going to want to go again. So Vine's just going to send it.
Controversial take. Do we consider the Bahrain victorious team, Tran in the red jersey, Tiberi and Butrago as co-leaders in GC, so that is limiting the amount of riders? But they won't just offer a Butrago to control the stage, is how I see it.
No.
So the amount of riders they have to control the stage is rather limited when 3 riders won't do it. So is there a world in which Visma Leasebach can exploit this with one of their 3 riders in the top 10 and create a scenario like 2023 where they go into the breakaway? Because Bahrain will have trouble controlling it, so then it will be down to who of the other GC teams blinks first.
To be honest, UAE, they didn't have a lot of numbers in a group of 10 on the final climb. And before, if Koos or Jorgensen go in the break, what could UAE have done?
Yeah.
We'll go in with Ayuso. You're going to be happy with that? Of course not. But he's now on 750. So, and then can Grosschartner, Soler control the whole stage? I think UAE probably still got a very good team to control this sort of stage. But yeah, I was surprised when Grosschartner dropped. So I think this could be, because it's so steep at the start, I think this will be a more open stage than today.
I would like to see a Jorgensen try to go in the breakaway tomorrow, something like that. Or a Koos maybe. I don't know if I 100% see.
I think Koos is flying.
I think he's flying as well, but there's quite a bit of valleys in this stage as well, which...
No, he's not allowed. He's not allowed on the front then.
He's not allowed on the front end. The problem is, will the breakaway ride when the Koos is in that breakaway as well?
Exactly.
Then it all starts becoming a game like that. But I'm going to go for a simple response. I think Jay Vine for a double.
I agree. He did it in 2021, right? Or 22? Did he win Pico Hano and then win the next day?
Which was the one where he crashed and Bardet ended up winning?
Hold on.
I think you might be right. trying to get back to the list here.
No, there was a day in between. There was a sprint stage, there was a random weird stage in between. He won 2 consecutive mountain stages from the break. That was 22.
Where he crashed.
21.
And Bardet won the stage.
Yeah, Pico Viercas. Yeah, that's right.
Haha, the memories are there.
That's right. He
was going to destroy that day.
Yeah, I think you can't go past Vine tomorrow. It's like, how is Fortunato going to beat him? Ayuso said well, not with those legs.
I agree with you there.
Yeah, but
is there a world in which this is giving him a lot of benefit of the doubt here? Is there a world in which he felt like he wasn't going to make it to the top in the GC group and thought, I need to lose 5 minutes now so I can go in the break tomorrow? You're walking away from me, so I guess I'll never get an answer.
No, there's absolutely a world where Ayuso, and he said it in the interview afterwards, he said, I knew coming into the race, I 99% didn't have the shape for GC.
Okay.
And probably he could feel like, holy shit, they're pacing. He can look at his power meter. He can look at the bike computer and be like, oh, I'm doing my normal threshold and I feel really bad. This isn't happening. No need to extend the suffering.
Me every
and just
day.
Parks it. Yeah, that's me. Yeah. I'm like, oh, this is a bit hard. Maybe I'll go a bit easier. So I think there is a world where this is not, his level is probably not 7 minutes 50. Yeah. And actually, it's probably the right, if he finished on 1:30, that would be the stupidest thing to do.
Yeah.
Because then you're no threat to anybody, but you can't go in the brakes. So probably he did the right thing. But yeah. What do you expect for GC?
I expect differences. I expect Vingegaard and Ciccone Almeida to be the strongest 3 riders in the race tomorrow evening. And I think Vingegaard should drop everyone.
And try and keeps red? I think he does.
I think he does, because the gap that he has is pretty significant.
And he's climbing well.
It's also, when those flat sections are in the climb, on those flat sections, I don't expect Vingegaard to take 40 seconds on Tron every flat section.
Yeah, exactly.
On the climb, yes, per kilometer, then Vingegaard's going to take quite a bit of time per kilometer.
Yeah, but Vingegaard would have to go full from the... Like, 2:33 is a big gap. He was climbing well today. He was taking time back on Vine.
I think Jonas goes with 6-ish kilometers to go on the climb.
Oh, actually, Vine came back on him. Anyway, it'll be an interesting stage tomorrow. I don't know if we have full coverage. I'll wait for Luke to tell us about that. I will draw your attention to Tour de l'Avenir, where we had the first real mountaintop finish. I think if you want to see the stars of the future, and it's literally that's why it's called the race of the future, really go and watch the last, 6-7 Ks of this stage. It finished on Tignes, up to Tignes 2100. All these guys, because they've probably all done altitude here by now. I think Nordhagen did. Definitely Seychelles has done altitude up here, I think. And very, like, the names are like seeing Widar, Seychelles, Nordhagen, Ramirez, Finn, Ormazel going at each other, attacking, was really exciting. And Ramirez, I think, like, we gave him a big rev up the other day, and he was the strongest, I think. So
I think so too. He did not win the race. And I feel like Widar sometimes feels like a Belgian Joaquim Rodriguez, as in he can climb and then still have like a massive sprint at the finish that you don't necessarily see coming anymore. So that's also what ended up with him winning the race, I think. But these 4 riders were really close to each other. Ramirez is just one of those like soulful attackers. He just loves to attack, it feels like. So he's not the new Isaac Del Toro because he's a different style of ride. He's 10 centimeters shorter. So that's not the same vibe I get.
But he's not like mega short like Ina Rubio. Like for an Ecuadorian, like he's not Ina Rubio or who's the EF Cepeda?
Jefferson.
Like he's bigger
They're both
than
Jefferson.
Yeah, I know. That's why.
Alexander?
Exactly.
No, that's the
Movistar. And he's a bit
the
taller.
other one.
But he's not like tiny like those guys. He's maybe 170, which is okay. I think he's taller than Widar. And
no, it's Alexander.
Yeah.
Alvaro's the Movistar one.
Yep, Alvaro, yep. So he may have a salvageable TT. He's not going to be 51 kilos like maybe Ivan Sosa. I think that's also why Ramirez, if he's racing at 58 kilos and he's climbing like this.
Yeah, he's basically Carapaz then.
Yeah. Although Carapaz TT has gone really... then he also was good, now it's bad.
A mini Jaguar.
But he...
Baby Jaguar.
Yeah, and he was attacking them today over and over. If the climb was harder... I know it was high altitude, but we'll see tomorrow. We have a 10K, 10% start out of a 30K neutral. So, Mateo Ramirez, UAE have done it again. They got another one. Another one. So, watch 211 here tomorrow before the Vuelta. It's going to be exciting between the big talents. They're all on different teams, and 6 of them. It's a much better field than last year, I must say.
One final thing that I do want to mention, and I know we've hit this nail in the coffin multiple times already, but Landa loses time in GC today, unsurprisingly, because he said that his form wasn't going to be good enough to go for GC in the first place. And shocking twist of events, he would have been better off losing time in GC to win the breakaway today and tomorrow, and he didn't, and as a consequence, he won't be allowed in the breakaway.
I tell you, you can't change a pattern of behavior. They're can't
addicted.
Do it. Yeah, they're just addicted to going for top 10 GC. And Javon's like, let me get this W and the bonus and another Grand Tour win on my Palmares. Thanks for coming.
You know, in How I Met Your Mother, when every now and then Ted gets like an intervention. Oh my God, you are so uncultured. me telling you you're uncultured. Every now and then there's like this character, the main character of the show, that goes into a room, and in that room it's his entire friends with like a banner. This is an intervention to stop some kind of addiction going on in his life. Someone needs to do that to Landa.
Yeah, like I get it. It's different when it's like, I don't know.
Can't believe you've never seen that show. Come on.
It's different when it's a guy in the Tour de France going for, like Jordan Jagat, fair play to him. Top 10 in the Tour, young. He's not that young anymore, but like, fair play to him. Landa's podium Grand Tours. He doesn't need 8th in the Vuelta. For what? I don't get it.
UCI points, buddy.
You get more UCI points from stage play. Vine will finish with more UCI points than Landa. They increased all the UCI points for stage. It's 180 points for a stage win. So no. No. And Vine's going to win KOM, by the way.
That is actually getting likely because he's already in KOM.
Yeah, he's going to win KOM. And tomorrow they do a Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 2, Cat 1. So, and there's barely any HC ones in this Vuelta. So he'll rack. Patrick, if he wins tomorrow, he'll take a huge lead.
You told all the viewers to watch Avenir before the Vuelta. I require you, before tomorrow's podcast starts, to have watched episode 1 of How I Met Your Mother.
What are we watching at the moment? We watched Deadlock. Deadlock was very funny.
Okay.
That's really what Australia's like, by the way, Benji. So you can watch that. And then
I have no clue what you just said.
It's a show called Deadlock. It was like an Australian produced one, but it's then I'm trying to make my wife watch the Buffalo Bills Hard Knocks. Mixed success with that one. And otherwise I just watch the full Mets game as well. So I don't have time for that. I have to rewatch every pitch from McLean last night. Then I have to watch all the AAA highlights of Tong, who got called up from the minors. So we'll end the pod here. Go check out
TV shows don't get heard, apparently. I'm watching Foundation, and I need to continue watching Severance. Foundation there's this book from Isaac Asimov, Foundation. He's got like loads of books that are science fiction. And
that looks good, actually.
Basically, it's a really good book, but the TV show does move away from the book quite a lot. But I still think it's one of the more underrated shows on TV at the moment. The problem is it's on Apple TV, which means that nobody has a subscription for it. So nobody watches it. So I think it's going to get cancelled off in season 3. But I'm desperately hoping that they don't cancel it.
What's the show I watched? Is not Transylvania or something, like where they're vampire hunters. It's an animated show. I watched it. It was pretty good.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
No, that's my wife's favorite.
Twilight animation version.
Yeah, I'll find it and I'll
Have
come
you watched
back
Arcane
to everybody.
yet?
Arcane. I haven't.
God damn it, get on it.
I've just. It's NFL season. I'm sorry. It's NFL. Like I got too much baseball and the Mets NFL season. Cycling. There's too much going on. Mervan Gerardsbergen. But yeah, go check out Exposure Lights. Great deal using LRCP 15. Thanks for them coming on the show, and we'll see you with the recap of probably another J-Vine win tomorrow. Ciao, ciao.